Good morning. Good morning, almost afternoon. Not everybody's left, I guess. First of all, thank you for all the help that you've given, not only by financially, which a lot of you have done that, keeps us going, and also just attending, not only attending these Dharma talks, which happen several times a week, either myself or Sokuzan talking, sometimes monks talking. If you're able to attend those, it's very helpful to have someone to give a Dharma talk to, or a practice. It's a practice, a way that we practice here, not often done elsewhere that I know of. So thank you for your help, and please continue to help us if you will, please, if you can, but if you're able. This morning's Dharma talk is titled Hidden Dharma Gates. So a Dharma gate is something that you personally, from the point of view of these teachings and my understanding of these teachings, need to look at rather than laminate with a bunch of excuses, explanations, anything. Blaming is the worst one for shutting down, turning away from a Dharma gate. As soon as you blame anybody for how you feel, don't do that if you can. You might not be able to do that if you have no awareness practice at all, or a very slight awareness practice, twice a week or something like that. It needs to be strong so that you can actually see there's a possibility when you're in that area where you're attributing the cause of your emotions, your feelings, anything about you to anyone else. Just to quote a famous Dharma teaching, all dharmas, that means anything that is coming or going, all dharmas. Dharma just means law or truth or form. The Buddha's Dharma is what we're studying and have been studying for thousands of years. All dharmas are without fault and without blame. There's no blame there. There's no fault there. One has to look at the very nature of dependent origination. Look it right in the face. Look it right in the eyes. May not be in the eyes. Look anyway. Look under your feet. Look what you're standing on. Look at what you're reaching for. Look at what you're pushing away. Passion, aggression. And then look what you're shutting out, closing off. The obvious one is I'm not going to look at this anymore, or I'm not going to think about this anymore, which might not be a bad idea. On the other hand, and on the same hand, it's about awareness of what's happening, not about some kind of stupid success story. When I say stupid, I don't mean anything but just ignoring. Through the sitting practice of meditation, shikantaza, we begin to see more and more clearly what is happening in our mind stream and our life stream. We begin to see more clearly what is moving there without a story around it. As soon as there's a story, it starts to go in circles. But if you're just aware of the story coming and going, and you're not sprinkling anything on it, you're not taking anything away from it. So no adding, no subtracting, no embellishing, enhancing, fluffing up, and no judging. It's very hard not to judge, very hard not to blame, but it's about seeing that. Am I making myself clear? Seeing that and not doing anything with it does not feel good. First noble truth of the Buddha: life is suffering. He did not say part-time, and he also did not turn it the other way where there's nothing you can do about it. There is something you can do about it. You can look at it. You can look at this. Have the courage to actually look at what shows up in your mind moment by moment by moment. I say moment by moment because you probably are under the illusion that there are some. There aren't any. You have to see it. So hidden Dharma gates are the particular access to the truth about your true nature, who you are, who everyone else is. It's not going to be, there's not going to be a lot of fanfare when and if, and when I say if, because I'm just addressing this lifetime, you will realize this. It might be in the next 80 years. But start now, do it now, work at it now. Don't look for success. It's foolish. It's foolish to look for success when you're at the bottom of a mountain and you've just walked for 28 minutes up the side of the mountain. So I wonder if I'm making any progress. That's why you need a teacher. That's why you really need a teaching, and completely, outrageously need a community. And the community you need are the people that are studying this, that are dealing with their different levels of crap. Give people the benefit of the doubt. If someone is giving you a difficult time, give them a little bit of space to deal with whatever it is that is showing up in their mind that they seem to be blaming you for. Without blame. So doesn't mean there isn't a cause and effect there happening that you could trace down and get scientific about and actually come up with proof that this happened and this caused that and that happened, and because of this over here toppled over on top of that. If it hadn't, then this would have run free, but it didn't. It died, or it got stopped. I'm speaking abstractly as much as I'm even able to. Have to look at it. It has to be seen. It will not be an experience. So you can stop looking for that right now. It's an astonishing thing to realize that what is showing up, there's no one there seeing it. It's Rangjung, the Tibetans would have called it. Just dependently. It doesn't matter which way it goes. It's self-arisen. Has no connections with anything. It looks like it's flying in the face of pratitya samutpada or dependent origination. No, it's not. It's just not separate. Pratitya samutpada is a way of talking about and addressing our confusion about relative truth, that we think there's a right and a wrong. We have to get it right and avoid being wrong. Pardon me, I think there's a mouse in my ear. So each person probably is doing a little bit of hiding out in that area. In other words, you might, on some level, might sense that that's a area you could look deeper into. Even in Atisha's 7 points of mind training, one of the 59 slogans there is work on the greatest defilements first. Well, you first have to find out what those are, not just simply, well, it's probably passion, aggression, and ignorance, so I'll be fine. It might be highly personalized. I don't use that slogan. It is hard to teach from that slogan because it sounds like we're snooping around in our psychosis or schizophrenia, or what's another word for mental illness? You don't have another word? Quasi? So to return to something I say over and over again is it is about the awareness of it, not the solving of it. And the reason for that is if we try to go to trying to fix it or do something about it, get rid of it or explain it or anything, any kind of agenda around that actually operates and enhances and fuels relative truth, which most likely will, just like our not pharmacy, but our medical situation that we're in, it's quite often about covering. And so that quite often happens to us when we go to try to solve it. We look for a way to stop it or avoid it or make it not feel so bad, or, excuse me, and which doesn't go to being aware. Because if you are fundamentally aware of it, then you might see it's going to take quite a bit longer. You might actually see it's going to take quite a bit longer to deal with this, because it's much more of a pile of knots than I thought it was, because I'm just going to look at this. I'm not going to go in with some kind of, how can I stop it? How can I avoid it? How can I explain it? How can I blame someone else for how I'm feeling? Just look at what it is, which is quite disappointing when we see that we're at the bottom of a very, very large mountain. We feel like we've been chopped off at the knees. We don't know how to move. We kind of have the inspiration, the vision to go there, but we don't know how to do it, because we're still caught by relative truth, thinking that we have to accomplish it. We have to somehow, there has to be some kind of movement. Well, yes, it does, but it does have to be that, but it is a path of awareness, not a path of accomplishment and getting somewhere, even though in some areas it's thought that way. Because without some kind of structure, some kind of steps, we get quite disappointed. I have a cup here that says, disappointment awaits. So I would say it's already here. So what is that? It's a way of addressing the negativity that we're dealing with, and just, it's disappointing. That's a good area to just receive that. Not particularly go into why it's disappointing. Go into causation. You get trapped in relative truth, and it goes in circles and looks like success. The whole world is doing that. If you disagree, please bring that to me and show me why you feel that this is somehow substantial and this is something we need to continue to do. Because I will say to you, this is something we need to continue to observe. Just watch it go around. Samsara. So the hidden Dharma gate part is in each of us an area that when we start to go into that area, everything comes in to shut down. My experience of that is having, and I've told this story before, it's 30 years ago, I had an employee at a commercial signing company that I tried to make a living with, a person who was embezzling from me. And because I didn't want that. I didn't want him to be an embezzler. So I just ignored it. Under the back away from that situation, it was easier. And I finally, because of the loss of funds, I finally had to look at that and see that he was embezzling, stealing, or whatever. I won't go into that story again. But it was painful, it was difficult, long time ago, over 30 years ago. So let's, I haven't talked very long, but I can talk some more. Some questions, yes, please.
Future bowing, if we are in a situation that's triggering something for us that's normally hidden, and we remove ourselves from that situation, are we missing an opportunity to look at that trigger?
Not necessarily. It might be something that is so intense that you might need to back away from it. But the idea is not to continue to do that, cover it up and say you can never look at that again. As long as there's a strong sitting practice, and I can't come up with a number particularly, but in the monastery, we have people that have full-time jobs and are still sitting 20 hours a week. That's a full-time job, not many, 40 hours a week of working at something on a computer or maybe around the grounds of the monastery, which is getting larger, and still manage to get to the cushion. quite a bit of that can be attributed to the person's intention to see this, their dedication to the path, the vows they've received and are endeavoring to observe as they understand them, and the very structure that we've created here, that you walk in the door, that we can take care of the rest of your life from there. Do this now, do that, sit over here, stay there for 8 hours. I'm being silly, but I'm just saying we have structures that if you want to do this, they involve awareness. So it might be studying texts with others. Don't study text by yourself. Study it with somebody else. Study it with somebody you don't like, but still a practitioner. You think that's not happening? That's happening everywhere. It's been happening since I first entered this crazy world called the Sangha. I think it'll be 50 years this year. Long time. So we would return to it. Just, you might see it, you might have to back away. Might be too intense. But try to see the structure of the very simple structure of what you're doing. This is arising, and then watch what you're doing with it, if you're pushing on it, or if you're explaining it. If you're pushing on it, aggression, just out and out anger against what's happening, I'm just making something up. But then try to continue to look at that rather than make an assumption that something needs to be fixed or something is wrong. Probably is. Relatively, everything is. I'm going to start going into swear words now. Relatively, look around you everywhere. People are trying to fix it, like the whole warfare with human beings down in Texas. People are saying, no, just take the guns. Just here, have guns. I'm surprised. I won't be surprised, but pretty soon they'll just give away guns to everyone. Everyone gets an AK-47. Let's see what happens. Maybe this will solve it. Everybody will kill each other off. So yes, there should be some laws. That's obvious. But the problem is not that people are evil. There are no evil people. There are people who are suffering and are suffering so intense, suffering pain that you've not even come close to yet. But it may be coming. So you have your cloistered area in the monastery or at home where you can go and sit, and you have your family that might be a little crazy, but they're not so crazy they're going to kill you. Let's hope. Let's pray. Hopes and prayers, thoughts and everything else. Go ahead, Misho. Unless you're just resting your palms.
I'm struggling with the title. What does hidden Dharma gate mean? If it is hidden, then it is not a Dharma gate. If it's a Dharma gate,
it is.
Hidden.
Yeah, it's hidden because you haven't seen it. Your teacher's looking right at your Dharma gate. If you're a student of mine, which as I recall you are, I've been looking at your Dharma gate since I met you. But I can't tell it to you because you need to see it. You need to see it. There isn't a person that comes to me that I don't see what they're dealing with. I can't talk to them because it's like they're like this. Help me. Wait, now help me. Not you particularly. Every single person that I talk to. Would you agree with that? Okay, I was just asking Jason. Would you agree with that? You? What are you agreeing with? Yeah, go ahead.
Geez, I'm bowing. Even when the Dharma gate begins to come into our awareness, it doesn't seem like something we can just step through. What is stepping through, or what allows that stepping through the Dharma gate to occur?
I don't know if you can step through it. I feel just like the walls of the mind. Japanese, please. Walls of the mind.
Shinkage.
Again?
Shinkage.
Shinkage. I always get it wrong, so I have to check with Eric. Because I practiced saying Mukage Ko for so many years that he had to come here to correct me. Shinkage. Right?
If I remember correctly.
Yeah, well, you probably remember better than I do. Walls of the mind. So the wall might have to look at that, and it's offensive. It smells. We don't like it. You're rubbing my nose. We don't like it. In order to see that it is a gate, In other words, the wall, it actually has some hinges on it to continue to use relative examples. Stuck my nose too far at my own karma. Now my nose won't stop itching. So we need to look at it. We need to see that, and it does not feel good, does not taste good. And it eases our hidden Dharma gate probably looks like a wall. We begin to look at it. We just continue to look at at how the obstruction looks. This is done. It's obvious. We look at walls. We're wall gazers, as Bodhidharma was 1,500 years ago, or whatever it was. Sir.
Does it look like there's just this?
To me, yeah. No, there's no problem with anything, anywhere. Go ahead. Go ahead. That big smile. I do, but I can't tell you because you're not ready to receive that. Are you ready to receive it? Okay. Until. What's happening here when I'm talking, there isn't even any intelligence here, particularly in the conventional sense. I'm just making up stuff. It's because I don't know how else to say this. Like with Chisho's question, and Chisho, I didn't come back to you to make sure that I'd address that in a way that you understood the other end of what your question was, which is what? The response. Did that response make some sense to you?
Kishwa, I understand what you mean by hidden now. I was thinking at it from internally, but you are looking at it as hidden from one side and not hidden from the other side. Wow.
Yes, it's hidden in the confusion. So I say, I'm a Dharma teacher, but not without students. If everybody just packs up and leaves, one at a time, maybe every week I'm 10 minutes late, and then I'm 20 minutes late, and finally people say, this is not worth it. I mean, his talks are all over YouTube. We can watch them there, saying the same damn thing over and over again. Why wouldn't we go and listen to that old man? Cooties. Remember that? You young people won't remember cooties. Yes, sir.
Does it also look like there's time?
It does look like there's time, but there isn't. If I use the fancy word, there's eternity. There is no time. There is no past. Don't believe me, please. Don't believe me. Look at it yourself. I can't convince you of this. I'm not going to try to convince you of it. What I'm going to try to convince you of is train your mind. I could talk to the people in Allen, Texas, where we're upstanding. We have prayers, and what was the other one? Prayers and thoughts. We have thoughts and prayers and thoughts and prayers. They need to go, it's obvious they need to go in and change laws so that people don't have their hands on atomic weapons. But you could say, we should change the laws about that, but what are they missing? The atomic weapons that all the governments have their hands on. And they're ready to kill Bradley fighting vehicles driving, and then they're blaming the crazy person in Al who's suffering, and he gets no help. We don't know when we find out who that is, we'll see that maybe there's mental illness, maybe there's not. I mean, reported, because everything is mental illness. But we go to try to fix it rather than see what's the underlying situation, which I'm very biased here. It's the spiritual. We need to see what this is. Otherwise, the world will continue on some level or another. Yes, sir.
Is there any way to work with just this other than as a concept?
Yes. Look at the wall. And then watch the concepts come and go about the wall, or about why you're sitting, or about your relationship to anybody, your relationship to the teacher, to the Sangha. Did you? Anything? Yes.
Georgios is asking, is Dzogchen related to Dharma gates? And if yes, can you talk about that? Thank you.
So I'm not a Dzogchen master, so some people talk about and claim. Dzogchen just means this. Mahamudra just means this. Shikantaza just means this. Am I somehow being disrespectful to the Dzogchen masters? I don't know, ask them. Find one, ask them. I'm looking at what is being talked about. I'm not saying there isn't some other kind of secret teaching somewhere that you can only get by going to the top of a mountain in the Himalayas and talking to somebody who's been sitting up there for 60 or 70 years, maybe, I don't know. But what I'm looking at is right here. I don't have to go to the Himalayas. It's right here. It's right on your bath mat. It's right on your toothbrush. It's right here, right here. It's right here. Everything right here. You can't find anything that is separate from anything else. It just looks like it.
Book bowing. If we see a Dharma gate, is there always part of it hidden bowing?
Probably. But at the start, you see that there's the wall, you see there's a crack in the wall, there's a gap in it, in your own mind stream about what is happening. Just return. It's not about maintaining. Don't maintain anything. It sometimes looks like we should sit down and maintain our posture. That's taught somewhere, some different places, and it's okay if that's what you're doing. If you're here, I'm saying sit down, hold still, and just watch what moves, because what moves doesn't particularly stop. Go ahead.
Is the part we see more important than the part we don't see?
Paraphrase yourself. Paraphrase what you said.
You often say, just keep looking. Does that mean look for the hidden?
No, don't look for the hidden. Just look at what's in front of you. Look at the wall, look at the person's face you're talking to, and receive everything. The tone of their voice, their body posture, your own reactions to it, your own commentary behind the scenes, so to speak, or off stage left, where you're talking about what is on stage. But it's not on stage, it's your conversation about what's on stage. It's your chatter to yourself about other people, what they're doing, how they're this or that, or how they're helpful or they're not so helpful. It's a rough area, but you need to do it. When I say you need to do it, you're here, you're giving me permission for another few minutes. I'm functioning as a teacher, you're functioning as a student. I'm doing my best, as far as I can see, to meet you where you're at. And what I would say, request of you or anyone else, be a student. Be a student of everything. Be a student of the teaching, be a student the book studies where we're studying the classical texts, the Dharma that have been around for hundreds, thousands of years. Receive. Don't figure anything out. Stop it. It's not that won't start to show up that way, but it's less likely to show up that way if you're filling the very space in which the teachings need to appear, in which the gate actually comes apart, where you see reality yourself. You see what this is. It is not a conclusion. It's not an experience. It's better than that, because it's freedom. It's worse than that, because it doesn't look like freedom. As long as there's one tiny speck of ego, me, and I'm in danger, or I'm not being treated right, or somebody's not respecting me, and all that bullshit. Meet your karma right, meet it right in the mud pile, meet it right in the scum, meet it right in the filth, meet it in whatever shows up. I'm trying to help you here. I'm not trying to smooth out things so that you won't suffer. I'm not trying to teach you a meditation where you can, finally I feel meditative. I feel more meditative. I had a really good meditation today. Didn't suffer at all. It's very calm and peaceful. Just, if you want that, just chant mantras. And don't misunderstand. I think mantras at certain times can be very, very helpful. But quite often, the way they're taught is just do this forever. Chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. I think that's a valid practice for those who need to do that. Yes, sir.
Eric, what are you trying to tell us, or what are you pointing at when you say that disrespectful behavior is bullshit?
I'm just saying that disrespectful behavior that is coming out of others towards you, or the disrespectful behavior that you think you might have inflicted on someone else, possibly, or any direction there, it's bullshit, because it's seen as we've tightened down on the cause and effect so much because we want a culprit. We want somebody to be wrong, somebody to be correct. And there is no such thing. The world is tearing itself apart, trying to make sure that the bandit doesn't get away, and make sure that the person who is really nice gets elevated and fluffed up. That's kind of what I'm pointing at. I'm happy to go further if you want to go there.
Eric, I do, but I'm not sure how. I feel like I've wanted to ask you a question about accountability and blame, but I can't figure out, because it seems like there needs to be, things need to be addressed.
They do.
Even if you don't actually blame some so-called individual.
This is what I'm trying to say, to take the world scene. Not that I know all that much about the world scene, but I'm saying when down in Allen or in Uvalde or any other places where terrible things have happened, there are millions and millions of people, billions of people in the world, and this doesn't happen very much, but it happens way more than you'd think it would, with people just trying to be reasonable and work with their anger. Suddenly we've got a person who's and what we do is, it's not that shouldn't be there. That's there because of causes and conditions. No one is wrong. That person is not wrong who did that. It's understatement to say misguided, but the fundamental reasons under that are hidden. And no one is looking at those. What they're doing is looking at the surface of it, trying to fix it, take away their guns. That would be a good idea, because you've got a person, you got a room full, you got a whole country full of people who are having a lot of different difficulty with their passion, aggression, and ignorance, and trying to find out how to work with it. They do not feel good. This person did not feel good and didn't have another option to deal with that anger other than just retaliate against everyone. Show, this is how bad I feel. I feel so bad, I'm going to kill children. Now, do you believe me? I've had those feelings go through my own mind, and I'd be really surprised if I didn't have other people in here or on the screen thinking the same thing, or something similar, something really intense movement to stop something or start something. So it needs to be addressed, yes, but it's probably not going to be addressed unless there's some kind of deeper understanding of the nature of our being together here as human beings. Go ahead, sir.
Sometimes I think about the difference between me and you seeing somebody throw a temper tantrum, where I might say that person looks angry, and you might say that person looks afraid, or that person looks like they're suffering. So when I see something or experience something that feels disrespectful, should I try to see that as fear or see that as suffering? It seems like a lamination, but it seems like it might be helpful.
Say the last part again.
It seems like it would be a lamination, but it also seems provisionally like it might be helpful.
There's some adding going on there. I would say that it's very individual. Some of that could be happening. One of the practices is drive all blame to one. The teach 7 points of mind training is changing things around. Look at what people are getting rid of or trying to get rid of, and draw it out of them. Receive their negativity. But you can't really do that. I don't teach Tonglen practice because I think it's too early. That can be done, but that needs to be that's a very, very, I would say, risky practice, because you're just, without even looking at it, you're just going to just draw the negativity into you. I would say it's pretty complicated. The intermediate state, or that state between the physical form and the next physical form, it's an open season there, and it's an open range. And there's all kinds of negativity flying around there looking for a home. And if you start inviting it, may not work in the idealistic way of receiving blame and sending out kindness and light and everything. I would say send out the kindness and light, but don't take in negativity just for a practice. Unless you're able to do that. For some people, I feel, are able to do that without being harmed by the outrageousness of dark rooms. There's a lot of room there. We could discuss that. I feel that there's something backstage that wants to come out but can't come out until there's a question, which I would say an invitation. That's why we do this together. Don't sit back and stick up stuff. If you were to talk to Onyo about what happens before I come in and give a Dharma talk, I just don't know what I'm going to do. I don't. Even the title of the Dharma talk doesn't help me as much as I would like. You help me. Go ahead.
Bowing. Is seeing a Dharma gate the same thing as going through the Dharma gate? Bowing.
Probably not. I have to look at it for quite a while. It might just be a dark area that you sense is there, but you can't do anything with it. And I would say continue to look at it, continue to receive the darkness, receive the impossibility, receive the disappointment, receive the negative, receive the first noble truth as it has been personalized in your karma, because it was personalized in the karma of the Buddha, what he went through 2,500 years ago. The situation he was in, if you read the stories about that, it's amazing that he was able to break away from his dad and from the Brahmins around him, because it was such a powerful click. It was powerful, and he somehow something was going on with him where he knew he had to do it himself, and he did. He went and looked at it himself, and he came out, 6 years later, as the story goes, and began to teach what he looked at, what he saw. And it was basically emptiness. But he talked about it in many different ways. But without that teaching, you wouldn't have the Yogacara teachings, or for that matter, all of the 18 schools, probably more than that spread out. That needed to happen. It wasn't disagreement. Just 18 people. Go ahead.
Michael Bowing, are all Dharma gates empty?
Everything is empty of our ideas about it. Except when it's not, which is that when it's a blockage or a Dharma gate or an obstruction. And you don't have to get rid of them. That's it's amazing to realize that you can actually feel emotions. You don't have to get rid of those negativities. You don't have to have some kind of ideal state of mind or have no problems. You're in a state of your idea of what equanimity is. Might be more balanced. Bad is happening. I feel okay. When actually it might not be like that at all. I mean, what was your name? Chodao.
Sokuzan Bowing. Should we look at how we blame others for feeling good as well?
Aware of it. So when you're looking at it, yes, it's a smoother area because it's the other end of the polarity we call pain and pleasure. And they're separated, just like right hand is separated from the left. They're not the same, but they're also not very different. If you did this with a hand and a foot, people might think that was a secret teaching. Yoga, is that you put your foot on your hand? Yoga. You could, if you thought it would help people. More?
Sokuzan Bowing. How does curiosity work with blame?
So you asked the question, what's that coming out of? It sounds to me like you have an idea of that already. Let's have it.
Sokuzan Bowing. I can think of someone to blame really easy right now. Well, if you want me to.
You know, you could do that for me. Go ahead.
There's the initial, I feel like I have to be aware of the initial attachment,
What?
the initial feeling of being attacked,
Okay.
and then almost really be with that, but then curiosity is what's behind that. You know, to usually that person has a lot of fear, terror, attacking me out of that. But I was curious how you would describe that process about curiosity.
You did pretty good. Not a compliment. Paraphrase what you just said.
So, initially, I feel attacked.
By who? Somebody. Okay.
A person,
Okay, go ahead. You got it.
and have to allow that to hurt or feel however it
Well
feels,
said. Yes.
acknowledge it or whatever. Then curiosity about where that's coming from.
Yes.
And looking at that, there's layers. There's anger,
Yes.
fear. It seems like terror is.
I can tell you've looked at it a lot. So what's the question? Rather than what I say about it or what I think about it, give me a question. The curiosity and what are the dynamics here so everybody on the screen, we can make sure they hear.
Curiosity
Curiosity
and blame.
and blame. Okay, so you're blaming somebody for what's happening because they're the one who's shouting at you or accusing you or whatever, and your curiosity comes up as to why they're doing that. Okay, here's my feedback on it. Curiosity is fine, but let the curiosity be just free flowing. You're just curious. It's simple looking into something instead of projecting onto something. It's like the body movement would be move a little closer. Mind just doing the same thing. It's actually looking at what is arising rather than judging or evaluating. So the blame part is covering up what the curiosity might be. What is the situation here? What is this? This person is acting in a way that is difficult for me. But yet, what is behind this other than just you didn't do this, you did that, you shouldn't have done that, you should have done more of this and less of this, and all the explanations that to just look at that simply. So if you look at it simply, then it's just curiosity, and it might be about where that's coming from. And you see that for what it is. It's just they're just covering up fear. They're covering up some kind of something they cannot relate to directly because it's just too painful for them. More?
Mary from Michigan, MERRY, asks, are Dharma gates produced?
Everything that shows up is a production of some kind. So it's, yes, it's produced out of the causes and conditions that arise as each of us, the negative feelings that you've had or I've had about this, judgments or evaluations or stories, little stories that go around about what she did or what she said. There's that. And then there's the much deeper area where might even go into a previous life or what we call a previous life. We don't know what that is. We don't fundamentally know what that is, but it looks like it's some otherness that is a long ways away. And that begins to show up at reactive because if that has not been looked at in the 13th century, it might have to be looked at now. Something that happened, something that occurred, or something was too excruciating, it was covered or stopped. It might need to come out now. Just a way of talking about it. It's something we all run into things that show up in our mind that we can't find a source for it, but it certainly is disconcerting, if not to say terrorizing. So finding a source, right?
There's another question.
Same person,
No,
right?
Ross from Ireland. Is it correct to maintain no self or other, in quotes, in mind alongside just looking, or should it just be looking and receiving?
So I'm not going to do an either or on that, but I would say that go with the second one. So just look. There'll come a time probably where you may need to, just like throwing a blanket over a couch, you may need to go into that, which will feel like a cover up, but won't be. I don't know. I can't resonate with you. It's like that. It's like, it looks like a cover up, but somehow it's an opening up of something. It's like magic. It's like what I talked about, ordinary magic. This begins to show up in our life, and it's astonishing because it tends to make us fundamentally wonder about all the conclusions we come to about everything. So I'd say leave that questioner. Please look at the wall as much as possible, or look at the floor, but keep the eyes open wherever you're looking. Look at anything where there's something still, then just receive, so that you can eventually transcend this world. Go ahead, Galen, go ahead.
Jayla back. Tonglen. I'm curious what the receiving and the danger of that, how that differs from the just receiving in chicken daza.
Yeah. So some people are very, I would say, very porous, and some people are not. So some people are, their mind stream, because the physical situation kind of grounds us. Someone is very grounded. You're here and you're present, and you're not. You've never seen a ghost, and then you've never had you aren't flooded with some kind of nightmarish thing that's going on in your consciousness. So at the same time, you're discontent, you're disappointed. You come to meditation to understand how your mind works, or for that matter, attain enlightenment, whatever it may be. I'd say let's just work on that. But going into deeper layers of consciousness, just because Padisha or Pema Chodron or Chogyam Trungpa or any other teacher said you should practice Tonglen. Even Trungpa Rinpoche didn't teach Tonglen until he had been here 10 years. He didn't teach it, and he taught it in 1980 in the West, I mean. And I don't know if his idea about it was what I'm talking about. Maybe not. Just to give that as a blanket thing where you invite negativity in, not a good idea. And I taught that for many years and practiced it for many years. Don't teach it now, not because you shouldn't do it, but we should look at each person and do that individually, rather than say everybody needs to practice Tonglen. That's because the nature of the intermediate state, I'm just saying consciousness without a form, without a particular form, then the forms are open for grabs. And there's lots of things grabbing you. Just because they don't have a body doesn't mean they're not grabbing. This is something we ignore as a culture, as even science ignores all this. So because science doesn't want to look at it. They want to look at things they can see and they can work with that are solid. And a thought is not solid, even though scientists use thoughts all the time without even knowing what they are. Meditators, if you've been meditating for a long time, you've got a good idea of what thoughts are about. But it takes years to do this in weekend seminar or 15 weekend seminars. It takes a long time. Because the knowledge about it isn't conventional. The knowledge about it is wisdom. Jnana or Chnan or Prajna or Pranya or wisdom. Only sees wisdom. More about that, Dylan?
Feeling bowing. What's coming up for me is the aspect of boundaries. Don't really have a I guess I don't know where my curiosity and my drive seem to get put together, and I just want to go somewhere and do something, sit down, and I don't know. It's just a comment, I guess. Power.
Well, you can send not do Tonglen, not draw in negativity, not particularly healthy, I don't think. That doesn't mean that there are people who can do that. And so some people practice Tonglen here, but I know that they can, I know them well enough to know that they're not going to be flooded by zombies. Yes, sir.
Choose going. Is the willingness to be a fool a willingness to function out of our emotions?
No. No, you wouldn't leave the be a fool to be humiliated by someone else. You wouldn't leave that to become emotional. You would leave it for something else. So that you see how that covers it up, because foolishness has no protection. Willingness to be a fool means that at the same time, in my situation, at the same time I sit up here and do my best to help people work their minds, being meditators based on what I've been taught and understood, I still know that this is very, from the point of view of any kind of self or person, very vulnerable or foolish. I'm willing to be a fool right here. I'm willing to die right here. That's foolishness. I'm willing to die right now. Will I? Maybe.
Sokuzan bowing.
Go ahead, Colin.
This is going further into Jalen's question, maybe.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
I can. Go ahead, please.
Earlier you gave an example of as it regards Tonglen, and you mentioned the Bardo and how there might be scary things there or wrathful things, I don't know. So you say don't take that in, or you don't teach taking that in like Tonglen. But if we have the aspiration of not taking that in a way that could be avoiding that, so how can we in the Bardo, in between lives or right now, how can we not take it in but still receive?
So my idea there is to just receive it in your life, receive it in your interactions with others, try to receive what people are saying, try to receive anything that's happening that apparently is coming from so-called out there from another person, and any response that's showing up to accompany what is sometimes called a reaction. Maybe not a reaction, just a what codependent, not a negative sense, but just together what someone's saying this, like Crocodile was asking about someone complimenting you or being with you and being around you, and because you're with that person or that individual, it feels very good, comfortable, they care about you, and they are, to be with them feels good. So that's also kind of reason. So I'm just saying what I'm specifically talking about here, maybe this will help you with it. Maybe it'll help you with it, is don't do it mechanically. If you need to take someone specific, someone is suffering, and you're sitting next to their hospital bed or something, I would say a Tonglen, as you understand it, or receiving negativity would be appropriate to doing that. But to do it like mechanically, just sit face the wall and do an hour of open meditation, a shikantaza or a shamatha or some other form, and then go into Tonglen practice as a mechanical way for most people. Some people can do that and it's fine. Some people, I would say, and the reason I'm saying, I can give you examples. I don't really want to do it with so many people. We have everyone is old or something here, everyone here. We would talk to you individually about it. But there's some people are very porous. I'm married to somebody who's extremely porous, who so-called, and this is not prove anything, but so-called or apparent I think capital A, apparent, other consciousnesses that are disembodied can enter into someone. Is that actually happening? I don't know, but it sure looked like it. And I've been looking at this way before I started meditating in the 1960s, using hypnosis to try to explore that area. And so I would say just be careful about it. I don't think you would have a problem. I think you would do Tonglen just because of the way you're a particular kind of clarity and your kind of confusion seem to come up together. I don't think you would be threatened by that. So I would think you could do Tonglen every day, you personally, because I know you really well. I've known you for what, 10, 15 years, somewhere in that area. So I would say you could do that. But I prefer to teach that, not like Atisha did or anybody, Pema or any, just a blanket thing. Here's how you do Tonglen. I first started doing that, worried about it then, and I did it anyway because I trusted Kung Pao. I still trust him. It's just that I think I'd have to talk to him about it. More?
Goes on bowing. If flying through the bardo, let's say, or an entity or a physical situation, it seems that there is a smell of codependent insanity. How can how can you work with that when you smell that without a strategy?
With what?
Without a strategy, without a mechanical strategy.
I have a strategy. Just receive. It's just receive. Even if you're just on receive, you do that a lot. Eventually, there's no receiver. That's what the practice. All of you, the monks, the lay ordained, and the people who are just never heard this before, just showed up today. Which there may be somebody, there may not be. If you can receive your life, don't miss your life. And that includes all the crap that arises in your mind, even the crazy stuff, even the stuff that I can't receive that because that might lead to horrible act or something. Please receive, trust yourself. When I say trust yourself, trust the space in which everything occurs, including your birth, including this manifestation of this human being and of the human being you are. You sit down, just receive all of this. It's very challenging, of course, because of fear. More? Goes on.
Because I'm bowing when the practice of not receiving or taking in negativity. Likewise, it could be, what's the difference between negativity and positivity when it gets down to it?
Yeah, well, we can go back and forth with that. There's many people down through the centuries, philosophers, Dharma teachers, everybody that have some kind of positionality on that. And I'm just saying, don't do anything unless you have to. And I have to plug this computer in because it had a low battery, but I can't do it because I'm glued to the seat for a little while.
Because I'm bowing. As the Tonglen is a common Buddhist practice. Can you hear me okay? Because
I hear you fine. I know it's a common. As I said, I practiced that, taught it for many, many years. And so I'm just, because of I have a wider, maybe you could say, or not better, but I have an understanding of layer of consciousness that is not particularly addressed. And then those teachings I know of, I'm not saying somebody is talking about this. I'm just saying let's be very tentative about just giving everybody blanket Tonglen practice, because it's the consciousness for each person is different. I can think my student may not a good idea for anyone to do Tonglen. All she has to do is get in an area that's sensitive, and she immediately gets flooded. She's not here now, but I think you can mind me using her as an example.
Because I'm bowing. I'm not trying to challenge why you do it or don't do it, but my curiosity is in why would there be a distinction? Why is the teaching to take in negativity and breathe out light? Why wouldn't it be receiving what appears as beauty, like what's the difference? Why would it focus on the negative and then blowing out?
Because the negative area, if you put it down to just a simple approach of negative feelings, positive feelings, because some of the negative feelings are terrible, they're destructive, they're painful. So the idea is to take that in as a bodhisattva or someone who is on the path, the Mahayana path, who is trying to work with their own negativity and work with the negativity of the world and get a deep understanding of what this is. And so they may have to work with that. I'm saying just like a Maitri Bhavana, where we send out kindness and love and affection to others. It's an outflowing that is based on receiving the world and receiving our own mind. It's just a polarity. But if you go into it and say, well, there's no difference, or say, what's the difference between this? Fundamentally, they're locked together. Hope and fear, pain and pleasure, all duality, life and death. That's the big one that we really big one. That's the mystery. It looks like it's because we're so enamored of this body mind. You don't see how foolish this is, that we are not limited to just the body. We're here for a while, but that while is also extremely relative. We really believe in time going by, and we believe we want to believe it gives us a little bit of security. Greg Sutton says the sound is breaking up. So, Sokuzan, you hearing me okay?
I wasn't bowing my head breaking up. I was thinking of mine because I'm having troubles too.
Anybody else having, give me hands up if you have having trouble with it breaking up? I don't know.
Yeah, on YouTube too.
Okay, so it's on YouTube also. So
You're understandable, it's just that when you talk, it is crackling.
oh, that's just me. I'm just crackling today. So what is Boyle says, yep, breaking Zoom. Well, maybe that's time we should just close. Yes.
Some questions from
Go ahead. I'll take some questions and try not to crackle.
Annie from Ann Arbor says, why does the exploration of hidden Dharma gates feel threatening?
Because to that part of the consciousness that actually thinks I'm somebody. That's the basic misunderstanding, mistake identity. We think we're solid being, and to start to go in that direction, which is it's threatening. Feels like we are somehow going to be demolished or ruined or exposed or all the other embarrassing things, and that's why we need to do it. It's a spiritual path. It's not a main path of getting better, covering up your defects, getting rid of your defects. Don't get rid of anything. I'm not saying there are other people who teach that when you claim otherwise, I'm fine with that. But if I do that, listen, I'm telling you, as far as I see, that nothing will happen. Other than things, it's more like things stop happening. You see the fear still comes up. There's no one who believes that. The polarity of the mind comes apart. Go ahead.
Greg from the UK asks, how to work with feeling anger and toxic masculinity coming out of a dog that is very clingy and fearful. How to work with feeling anger and toxic
Stop there. Go on.
toxic masculinity coming out of a dog that is very clingy and fearful.
I'm not sure what the person wants to know. Toxic masculinity, all that needs to be observed and gotten rid of, because we try to change and get rid of something, and the mind is very good at covering up. That's just how we think. All the medications, in fact, I could ask, you're a what do you call you? Not a psychiatrist, a pharmacist. Okay. How many medications do you, what's your name again? I hear your name. IU, what does that mean? How does that feel? That's good. It's a cloud, it's a safe cloud, I don't know. So, one of my questions.
There are a lot of drugs that go around.
Yes. You give a guess on how many drugs actually cover up issues rather than heal or eliminate them? 50? Percent? Okay. Okay, go ahead. Am I still crackling, you guys? So you're approving of the crackling? Oh, no, not approving of the crackling. So Chico, you think what?
You sound like a fireplace.
Yeah, can't hear anything.
Crackling. What's the other question?
Ross from Ireland says, if you get afraid of those other living consciousnesses out there, is there a way to protect from them?
No, just for protection. That's what's the looking about. Is there a way to do that? Very simple. And it's just obvious, just treat those situations that has some validity to them because they respond to that. If you sense that, say, I see you're doing it easily. Go ahead. You can also ask for help. You can pray. As a Buddhist, you can pray. The bodhisattvas and the 10 directions and the 3 times. It sounds ridiculous, might sound do it anyway. You don't know what's out there, so you don't know what's in the other room, let alone the deeper layers of consciousness, unless you've been stumbling around in there in this lifetime. That's so quiet. Usually they won't tell anyone because they take you to the psychiatrist. Is Choka there somewhere? Being able to take you to the psychiatrist. Choka. Not there. You have something to do. Okay, I'll take one and we'll close.
Can you work all this out by continuously knowing that day and time is a continuation of a dream?
Well, you might need some of that. We all need some kind of, everything is real, but it's unreal. So the duality of it is very, very confusing because the physics, if you realize this is unreal, then you have a little bit of a leg up, not to use the body part, but you have a little bit of that in getting so you can see yourself. If you see it, then you don't need any proof. You can see what it is, and you are liberated. And nobody's liberated. Because the very nature of liberation is there's no self, there's no being. That's why the teaching of emptiness, Trinita, is used so much.
May this in all places so that we every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. Sokuzan, the 3 times, all because all ever ones. Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna, Paramitam. Bodhisattvas
32 windows on it before.
Off the sound.
What are all that crackling is about?
Oh, I'm looking at this thing here. This looks like this.
So it still have 16 windows. Look at all the people moving around in the Zendo, chattering away. So Michael is explaining crackling.
The only way that you can do it is to try.
You're clear now.
So Kozan, any further question about, or any elaboration on the question you had? Because I felt like I'm missing what you were asking about somewhat. Especially when you talk about the polarity of it. It's those two are not separate from each other, yet they're separated based on various things. Fear. If there's no fear, then those are not they're not the same, but they're not separated anymore. So you're completely unafraid of anything.
As I'm bowing, I think my line of questioning was just, can you hear me?
I mean, essentially both.
Can't hear you.
They can hear me, but it sounds like
You can't hear. I don't see anything and I can do. But maybe I can read your lips. Try again. Oh, how'd they get shut down? Because you changed over from that to this. I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I think the line of questioning was just a way to go into it, because in as much as we try to receive, it does seem like there's a mechanical intention with our body and minds to stay there or flee,
Yes. Yes. And this is what, with the Tonglen, I'm saying we can do some of that, but let's not do it mechanically. So let's do it with a little bit more clarity or awareness around what's happening there. I would think a person could practice that, especially sending out, but sending out kindness, love, understanding, health, and all of that to others is good. This is what we do with the White Tara practice, is use a deity yoga to actually generate love and kindness, compassion, health, long life, and all the other things that White Tara stands for. But taking in negativity is what I think is we should keep that to a minimum.
Kozan Bowing, that was helpful in a weird way. I will try to describe is that let's say we're flying through the bardo and we see something off scary or something beautiful. It could be that the beautiful is more sinister than the scary, or the same in life.
Yeah. Yes.
So even as a practice of taking in negativity, it seems like it's helpful because sometimes it's quite obvious, but sometimes the stuff that's cloaked in a daisy is the one that's gonna, start shooting.
Well, I'm to go in the direction that you seem to be talking about. I would say I would leave it up to you. I wouldn't stop you from practicing Tonglen or go against it. Just be aware that you're dealing when you're asking for negative energy to come into you, because on the in breath you take in, it's very mechanical. You're actually using the breath to do that with, and the idea there is you're equalizing the whole thing. So, they're, like you were saying, positive, negative, positive, negative. You're actually going in and choosing to send out positive energy, health, well-being, kindness, compassion, long life, and all the other positive things. And you're taking in all you're visualizing. You've practiced this, if you've had some instruction in it, which I don't know if I've given you any, but there's plenty of instruction out there. Pema is just full of that kind of instruction. And is that incorrect? No, it's not incorrect, especially if you're a student of hers, or if you're a student of, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Good, because what we're calling negativity is not out there. It's what we're calling it.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, we name it. Actually, and addressing beings who are so-called beings who are disembodied, and in whatever that state is, the bardo or the intermediate state or whatever you want to call it, that part where there's somebody there, Many of you have been visited by someone who's passed away or had words. You have an idea there's something going on there besides just your imagination. But is there a separate being? Well, what does that begs the question? I don't know if you can beg in that way, but that's the beggar.
Michael Bowing. An AR-15 is a wonderful example of that. To you and I, it may look evil, but to somebody who collects guns or owns guns, they see it as something beautiful.
Yes, that's true.
It's just,
and mechanically, I like the mechanics of it. Or I thought it was when I was in the Marine Corps, I thought being able to take an M1 Garand, which is a very simple structure, comes apart in 3 parts. There's this group and that group and this group. There's a stock group and there's the barrel group and there's the trigger mechanism and so on. And yeah, it gets pretty fascinating. Be able to know how to dismantle that, put it back together, and now you can kill people with it. Trained to kill people. Yeah. I mean,
just one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it the just looking for causes that, for me, seems to be the problem? Is that you can go deeper, but that you just, how far do you want to go deep?
Yeah. That's basically the idea. Is you can do a little bit of that. We're not trying to stop someone from seeing just the immediate cause of this or that. We're going to do, but to make that some kind of project, there are people that do that and are they're called philosophers. You do it. Psychologists, people who go deeply into the nature of this or that. Not against that. That's fine. But as a meditator, let's just receive whatever comes up in the mind, or through the ears, through the nose, through the tongue, through the thinking process. Just let's receive as much as we can. Then if we need to produce, then it will be choiceless. Then we just need to get up and do this or that. It sounds very simplistic, and I don't know what else to say about it other than sit a lot.
Jalen Bowing.
Yes, go ahead. One more, and then I've got to go to an interview. Go ahead, Jalen.
The way I was kind of interpreting what you were saying is like in the human realm, like don't lock yourself into like a God realm and try to be doing that stuff in jealous God realm, like drive. Yeah, fine.
Yeah, it's just try to keep it very simple. You're not going to be able to avoid the realms. We don't need to do that. Just need to watch what occurs, see what occurs, and watch the consciousness coil up into a being that can win or lose, or is full of hope or full of fear. One who's realized that there's no central authority anymore. So that's why there's a willingness to be a fool, because that's what it feels like. It feels like you're a fool, but it also feels like you need to help people because you're not separate from them. Your heartbeat may be separate, but the fundamental understanding of consciousness is we're not separate. We're separated completely in this human realm and in all the other realms, the animal realm and the jealous God realm, the God realm, and so on. We are separated out in that way. But in the human realm, which is what we're probably in now, there's just that curiosity that Chokadao was talking about earlier. We're just curious about things, about what's happening, but we're not making any demand or having any heavier finger pointing or AR-15 pointing. We're not going to go there. We're just going to receive as much as we can. Okay, I'm going to go talk to somebody. Good to see all of you. Thanks for joining us this morning. And again, sorry that I was late getting here, but couldn't be helped.